Today, our common theme is to how we treat the poor and how are we humble, which leads to the sharing of the poor, for the poor and needy. The reading also warns us against pride and self-gratification. Humility is not only a virtue, but also a means of opening our hearts, minds, and hands to the poor, the needy, and the marginalized in our society, a personal responsibility that every Christian has. What does it mean to be humble in our society? It seems like some of you exhibit being humble today by not taking the place of honor that we heard about in our gospel in the front pews, but sitting in our back rows. As our gospel tells us, my friend, move higher, so you can be exalted more. As our gospel tells us, some of us would feel very happy if someone came and we were sitting way back in the bleachers and watching our favorite sports game, and someone came and said, I have a great seat right in the front. Would you like to take it? And you would probably say, sure, I'll be glad to take that seat. The first reading from Sirach reminds us of humility based on all the virtues. Being humble is to know our place. Sometimes it's hard to be humble. There's a thin line between humility and pride. If we say we are humble, then really we are proud. Are we proud to be humble and brag about it? Of course not. Other people can tell us, can brag about us and say, she or he is so humble. And we can take that, but we can't really say we're humble ourselves. Perhaps it sounds like the song in the 80s, Oh Lord, it is hard to be humble. Some of you might remember that song. The greater we are, the more humble we need to be. God calls us all to humility, to look out for others, and to give to those who can't return the favor, as our gospel said. Even in Hebrews, our second reading gave another reason for us to be humble, because Jesus was humble. So his followers were expected to be humble like he was, and try to imitate his humility. It says that we need to follow Jesus' example of humility in our relationships with the less fortunate in our society. And in today's gospel, Jesus explains the practical benefits of humility, connecting it with the common wisdom about dining etiquette. Jesus' words concerns the seating of guests at a wedding banquet and prompts the person to move closer. If we are generous and just deal with those who are in need, we can be confident of the Lord's blessing. Humility and service to others is a hallmark of discipleship that the gospel speaks about today. Those Jesus was telling the parable about the order of rank, he was also saying that, we can also think of the Da Vinci Last Supper, where the person in the center, which was Jesus, was the most important. We can picture this also that still goes on today at wedding receptions, where the bride and groom are seated in the center and the bridesmaids and groommen are seated at the head table around them, the place of honor. The first reading says, the more you humble yourself, the more you will find favor with God. And the gospel says, everyone who exalts himself shall be humbled, and he who humbles himself shall be exalted. Even St. Francis had a saying about that when he said, I am who I am before God and nothing else. It is a disposition of the heart. So we might want to ask ourselves this week, how do we act humble around others? And how do we become more humble than being proud? Humility is grounded in the awareness that everything we have is from God, and therefore we have no reason to boast about it because God has given us all good gifts. Humility means the proper understanding of our own worth. It requires us neither to overestimate nor underestimate our own worth. It may mean to be available to serve when we see something to be done and not need to be recognized that we have done something, but be behind the scenes. So let us pray that the Lord may help us to do as the prophet Micah says, to act with justice, to live tenderly, and to walk humbly with our God.